Good morning, you guys. How's everybody? I had the opportunity to talk to you guys a little bit this morning about customer success and a customer-centered growth strategy. Just last week, I was in New York, and I attended an event that we had basically around best practices for customer-centered growth, where we hosted about 200 large enterprise customers there, and they actually shared the results that they have been driving with their customer-centered growth strategies. So I thought, when asked to speak here today, what I would do is talk a little bit about that and share that with you. I think it'd be really interesting to everyone and educational as you're thinking about how to grow your businesses. So the team themselves, as folks came and talked at our summit, our best practices summit, it was incredibly inspiring. There were 21 presentations that were driven by customers talking about their use of technology, processes, people, and so forth to really move the ball forward for their businesses in the world that we live in today. And I can't tell you at Tatango how inspiring that was to us. To stand there, sit like you guys are today out in the audience and just listen to these companies talk about the things that they were doing with our product and with our solutions and with our support and the really demonstrable results that they were able to drive. And so I thought, this is going to be the thing that's most interesting to you to talk about today. The world that we live in today, we define as customer success 2.0. It's a McKinsey term that's been thrown around, but essentially where we are is in a world where we're trying to drive proactive engagement with our customers, right? We've got to lean forward. We've got to interact with the customers. We can't be sitting back waiting for them. So the question is, how do we engage with the customers? How do we lean forward and drive this kind of proactive engagement? And that's the shift. Customer success has been around for a while. It's been a term that's been thrown around. But people have had varying levels of success with customer success. And I'll talk a little bit more about what the term even means. But with regard to the world we're in today, the shift that's really kind of happened is all of a sudden people are having breakthroughs and really able to drive this really interesting growth because of this lean forward and proactive strategy. And so really what it's all about in today's world is turning what you want to do or your intentions actually into actions. If you're in a large enterprise corporation, it's often that you know what you want to achieve. You know the emails that you want to get sent, or the workflow that you want to make happen. But the problem is, how can you do that at scale? How can you do that for 32,000 customers or 300,000 customers without having, an absolute, workforce of many, many, many employees? And since we're all being asked these days to do more with less, the question is, how can you use technology to bring that to bear, to drive these workflows and to eliminate friction and turn what you want to get done, turn the intentions into actual actions? So a little bit more about Tatango before I talk more about the results. Tatango is a leader in enterprise customer success. We're a global company. Our largest customers are people like Google, NTT, SAP, Zoom, and others. And these are people who have deployed the solutions that we sell, enterprise-wide to drive results against their entire customer base. And they're using it to manage the customer success and customer-centered growth strategies. This is the Tatango advisory board. You can see some of the same names and brands up here, just to give you a flavor for the company itself and the brands that are behind the company driving it forward. So let's talk about the results themselves and what people are actually doing with customer success. And I think the world's largest customer success implementation today is a company called SAP, and I think everybody knows them. Everyone's heard of the SAP brand. SAP last winter, winter of 2018, ran a process, a selection process, chose Tatango, and signed a contract with us last June of 2018. We started the project in July of 2018, and we went live about 5 months later for 1,200 employees across the world using the Tatango platform to manage all of SAP's customers. Since that time, we've now ramped up to over 2,400 employees using the solution and done releases. SAP has been able to iterate and improve their customer success strategy, customer-centered growth, monthly since that time, with 8 releases going out and driving the results further and further for them. And this is something that's pretty revolutionary in the customer success space, because in the past, you might have some idea of what you wanted to achieve with your customer-centered growth strategy, but you might not be able to iterate against it. And I'll talk more about the iteration and the rapid iteration as we move forward. Some of the other companies that have talked about some of their results were Trustpilot, who presented last week at this event I mentioned. And Trustpilot, Brian Merritt, talked about the fact that they went live with Tatango in 2016, and between 2016 and 2019, they've been able to drive their retention up 20 points, from 72% to 95% using the platform. And of course, we all know every single point of retention is significant dollars in ARR to a company. And there's no way to grow if your customers are churning out the back, right? So we've got to keep the customers we have, make sure we're delivering value to them, make sure that they're happy in today's world, and they're going to continue to renew, and then add new customers on top, right? That's the way that the whole model works. Companies like Monster talked about what they're doing. Monster is sending 2 million emails a month through the Tatango platform and has been able to drive their customer retention up a number of points as well. If you look at the Tech Touch space, which is the digital programs that they run at kind of the volume level of customers, they've been able to drive that up by 20 points, retention up by 20 points. And if you look at all of Monster's customers across their entire customer base, they've been able to drive up retention by 11 points. Again, each point of retention being serious dollars in ARR to each company. And the last company that I thought I'd mention tonight was Zoom. And Zoom is actually using the Tatango technology and solution to manage 32,000 customers with one CSM through digital programs. And that's kind of like a staggering number, all right? If you think about that for a second, 32,000 customers and one CSM. Oftentimes, when I talk to other large enterprise companies, they tell me, what their model is in terms of number of customers to a CSM. It might be, 50, 100, 200, but 32,000 because they've been able to use the Tatango platform to successfully improve the health of their volume tier. And for that volume tier, they improved the health of those customers by 65%. And across the entire customer base, they've been able to improve health using the platform by about 30%. So these numbers, I think, get people's attention. They get people's attention saying, geez, what should I be doing at my company to drive a customer-centered growth strategy? And how can I improve retention at my company? How can I be driving adoption and improving onboarding and these kinds of things at my company? And so these are folks that we end up talking to and telling them a little bit more about what can be accomplished in the world that we live in today. And so what we do at Tatango is we bring together all the customer data points, so from all of your systems into one platform. And we call that the customer operating system. And so the customer success operating platform connects the dots of all of your data points of your customer. For SAP, that's 39 different systems. For another smaller company, that might be 3 systems or 5 systems. But some large number of data points that we bring together, create the digital representation of your customer, and then drive proactive, through automation and through workflow, proactive engagement around onboarding, adoption, expansion, renewal, escalation, whatever workflow is going to make sense for your company. And the way that we do this is we have something called enterprise to customer, this concept that we really believe in and we've modeled everything we're doing against, which is you have to, in today's world, put your customer at the center of the business. Every business decision that you make needs to take into account your customers and what the best thing is for them, what the best thing is to drive the value for them for your business. So the first thing we do is bring all the data together. Second thing we do, drive that proactive engagement. And the third and most unique thing that we do is we bring the impact of the entire organization to bear for the customer. So typically at Tatango, the people who are using the solution or using the technology are not just the customer success organization. It's the customer success organization and pretty much anybody else who is customer-facing in the company. Because what we see is that once companies bring all the data together and they have the digital representation of the company, of the customer, and they're starting to standardize against the workflows and drive the proactive engagement and automation and so forth, they now, once they have that all done, they want to actually get the benefit of that by having everyone in the company who has anything to do with customers to have access to that information so they can make the best decision. Maybe it's a product decision or a support decision or a contract decision, but a decision can be made using the full context of what's going on for a particular customer. So people ask me when I talk to them all the time, they say to me, why now? Like, why is this happening now? We've all wanted to do this for so long, and we've had data in lots of different systems all over the place for a long time. Why is it actually happening now? And I kind of harken back to late 2017, when our founder, Guy Nurpaz, and Ravit Danino, our VP of Product, SVP of Product, were sitting around trying to answer this question that we got all the time from enterprises, which was, I can see my employees are busy. I can see my team is incredibly busy. And I can see that I've got these results. Whether they like the results or not, they understand the results and they can see the team's busy. But they just have no idea what the team is actually doing. And are my people doing the right thing, the wrong thing? If I could get them to do different things, could I drive better results? And so we undertook this study of our customer base to try and figure out what exactly were people doing in customer success. Customer success is this kind of broad term. And ultimately what we figured out, which you can see depicted here on the slide, is that the customer success area or the customer life cycle is broad and deep and also not linear. So ultimately, when you looked across the customer base, these are each of these little bars that you see are the things that our customers were using the technology for or were undertaking under the guise of customer success. Onboarding, escalation, renewals, expansion, and so forth. And so that led Guy and Ravit to come to the table with a new innovation, which we deployed which we launched in early 2018. And that was this concept of Spark. And Spark is this next generation customer success platform, which I'll talk about, that propelled Tatango to this leadership position with all these large enterprise companies. And Spark is comprised of the kind of fundamental component of Spark that help people understand how to move forward with customer success. Spark is comprised of success blocks. And basically what you do is you take your customer journey or your customer workflows and you break each into an individual success block. You then build out that success block with every single activity tied to results and then deploy that. And you can rapidly iterate against your success block. So you break onboarding into its own success block, renewal into its own success block, and so forth. So for each success block, you're able to quickly iterate against it as you're seeing what's working and what's not working for you. Maybe there's some things that you thought, a best practice that you guys have been following for quite some time, but as you actually look at the data in your onboarding success block, you see that that's actually not effective. That particular play or that particular campaign is not effective, but maybe there's something else you should be doing. So success blocks have really allowed large enterprise corporations to be able to standardize their customer journey and standardize their best practices, take them out of the heads of the individuals and create these unique little components of the customer journey and then track the results against them. And that's why someone like SAP has been able to do 8 releases since going live, because they've been iterating each single month against each one of their success blocks and able to just say, this is not working, let's make this change here. The other beauty of success blocks is that it allows you to scale your team. So the information about what needs to be done to manage the customers or to drive a particular workflow is no longer on a piece of paper or in people's heads, right? So you can actually give the team the success blocks. It's why we use the conveyor belt metaphor to send them on out to the organization. And you get your best practices and your best minds understanding what changes need to be made, making the change and rolling it out to the team for the team to use. So as you're bringing on more people into your organization, they have kind of the guide rails of what processes that they need to follow in the reporting and so forth. So I'm not going to talk about this one too much, but basically Spark is a component of the overall Tatango platform. There's three pieces. The data platform itself is DNACX, which brings together all the data across the entire company. Spark is a user interface in the application and success box that run for the entire customer success organization. And then Zoe is the product that is for everyone else in the organization. And typically that's the way that it gets deployed. So where we are right now is with that innovation around success blocks and with the results that all these large enterprises are seeing with customer success has a tremendous amount of momentum in the marketplace. And people are really coming together, using our technology to bring together the data, to drive the insights, to drive the workflows, and to really allow their people to be what I call freed up. And what that means is flip the model from the world that we live in where people have to spend 80% of their time preparing for a conversation with the customer, and then 20% of the time actually with the customers, meeting with the customers or working with the customers. If you're using a great customer success technology and solution like Tatango, you'll be able to flip that, and about 20% of the time will be spent on the preparation, and 80% of the time will be spent with the customers themselves. So the platform takes care of a lot of the inefficiencies and the preparation and the other work that's kind of mundane that the team doesn't need to do anymore. The technology can be doing this for them, and it allows the team to be freed up to spend the time with the customers and driving the business results that you're looking for. Not only is it the platform, though, that's important, I think, at this time in customer success, it's also the community. And so one of the things that we really believe in and we have been very successful with is driving a community around customer success leadership and best practice sharing and results. And some of that's what I even talked about already here today. And we just had an event last month, last week in New York, as I mentioned, and then in the spring we had one here in Napa. So we're very committed to that community. And you can see some of this for yourself if you want to look at the Tatango website. I put the URL down there at the bottom for you guys, so you can go ahead and take a look at the videos and case studies that are there. But there are case studies from SAP, Zoom, Monster, Waystar, Workfront, Trustpilot, and Data Intensity. All very relevant, all very real time, up there talking about what they're doing with customer success, why they chose Tatango to do it, and what results that they're able to drive. So thank you so much for your time today.